Without further ado, I'm going to introduce the co-moderators of this session. Karla Childers is Vice President, Bioethics, Policy and Partnerships at Johnson & Johnson. Aaron Leibtag is CEO and co-founder PENTAVERE. And we will be talking about a new model, a new patients first model. You guys want to take it away?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I used to be a cruise director, so I'm going to ask all of you to sit down and or move out to the other room if you're continuing your conversation. So if you all want to keep talking, if you could go ahead and sit down or settle, or please join us. Because we've had a schedule change and we only have 30 minutes for what we're going to do. So I'm sorry, this is going to be directive me. I don't even have children, I just have a husband and dogs, but this is what you're going to get today. All right? Okay. So I'll give you 5 more seconds to pass your business card, finish your pitch, move to the other room, or sit down and join us before I give it to the lovely introverted Aaron who doesn't like to yell at people, but I don't mind. All right. So Aaron, over to you while I go corral these people over here.
As people are being corralled, I want to thank the Galien Foundation for this moment. They've had a profound impact in accelerating innovation, and in doing so has really accelerated our shared humanity, and this Patient Summit is an example of that. I want to thank Edward Cohen, who's really honored the foundation by putting patients first and the legacy of what your father and Elie Wiesel started. And I want to thank Karla Childers. Karla, your leadership in ethics, the moral clarity you bring makes this conversation impactful and credible for patients. My name's Aaron Leibtag, and a year ago today, 2 events changed my life. The first event was the company I co-founded won the 2024 Best Digital Health Startup Award. That's not to, what to clap at is the committee selected a company that didn't raise $1 of venture capital, had $0 budget in marketing and promotions. Many would argue we didn't have a product that can demonstrate that hockey stick of recurring revenue. But what we did have was 50 peer-reviewed publications validating our AI in terms of unlocking the hidden knowledge that we've talked about today in the EMR to help identify patients faster, diagnose them earlier, reduce that administrative burden of clinicians so fewer patients fall through the cracks. And we had in peer-reviewed publications impacting over 1 million lives. The next event was 4 days later. My son was diagnosed with an extremely rare brain tumor. 4 days later. And when your child is a patient, you become the patient, because you would do everything and give anything in the world to actually be in their place. Thank God he's okay. He got the most incredible care. This is him 3 days later from major brain surgery. If we really want to celebrate what the Galien Forum is all about, innovation in life science. We're here today to talk about what could be a new model to unlock innovation in healthcare. You know, I was going to start with this, and I'm going to change that because I don't think that does honor to the discussions by patients that have happening today. $56 billion have been spent to venture capital money around healthcare innovation, but that's not the point. The point is that, right? We're here to talk about patients. Just think about it. He had major brain surgery and, you know, no scar and is okay. So when we talk about changing the model for patients, let's focus on that, but I don't want to take away how important this is because we need capital, and that's what Karla and I are going to talk about really quickly. So one of the things that was delightful today, hearing from patients, is your ideas. Some of you are even so bold that you were pitching, and good for you, because that's what entrepreneurs need to do. And if you were meeting with any venture capital company, any funding sort of source, both on the life science side, in the capital market sides, this is what it looks like. They're going to say, what is your product? Show me the addressable market. What is the problem? How are you going to build a product? And this is the amount of money that we need. And you go on that journey. But here is the problem in healthcare. We're talking about putting patients in the middle. You build that product. You raise that capital. You get on that wheel. What about security and infrastructure? What about privacy, ethics, and compliance? What about actual clinical adoption? And then what about the patient? As entrepreneurs hit each of those sort of barriers, it ends up costing a lot more capital. It ends up reducing the scale of that product. It actually creates huge distance between product market fit. Yet this is how we fund companies today to unlock healthcare innovation. And this is the community. This is what we want to begin the conversation to facilitate to change. Can you imagine starting with the patients? Can you imagine a pitch that says, I'm looking for seed capital because I'm going to be spending the next 8 months with the patient community. I'm going to build advocacy. I'm going to understand sort of that route. My total addressable market is that circle of care, and these are the milestones to which I think we should fund. And then let's talk about clinical adoption. Let's talk about privacy, ethics, and regulations. And let's keep moving up from seed to Series A to Series B to Series C, not on product market fit and a SaaS model. We've spent $56 billion US over the last few years around that particular approach. And let that inform that product market fit. Let that inform the solutions and the innovations that were coming up. And that is what we're really here to talk to you about and facilitate a discussion today. And with that, it's my profound privilege and honor to pass it to my colleague, Karla, from Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, thank you. And I'll now go back and apologize for starting off by yelling at all of you like you were children, but we wanted to get this rolling, so thank you for your understanding with that, and I sometimes can't repress the former project manager and cruise director in me. So I think as Jeremy and Aaron both briefly mentioned, I have the distinct privilege of working at J&J in a role called the head of Bioethics Policy and Partnerships, which it means my day job is spending time thinking about how do we ethically conduct research and deliver innovation and products to the patients who need them. And so it's an absolute privilege. I think I have the best job in industry, and I really do love it. I sought out industry 20 years ago because of my experience in my own family. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 11, and as you can imagine, that devastated our family. And as a little girl, seeing my mother, who was the rock of our family, struggle with that, and yet she didn't let it slow her down. So if I'm going to ask Aaron to click twice for me. Actually, no, he put the clicker right in front of me. This is actually her. So she's my wife. She's the one standing there next to me, and I'm the adorable little kid that just cut her bangs, sitting on the pony. But she was just amazing and had this joie de vivre that persisted throughout her time as a cancer patient. And amazingly, we had her for 11 years. And the first round of treatments, as you can imagine, in the early 80s wasn't great. By the time she had her recurrence, though, she was wearing her fanny pack with the anti-nausea meds that were pumping through her port, eating a cheeseburger, riding a horse. It was amazing to see the innovation that took place from the pharmaceutical industry and academic research and input from patients in just a short period of time, from the time she was originally diagnosed to when it actually recurred, and then when we ended up losing her after really a valiant 11 years, far longer than we ever expected to have her. So that profoundly shaped my interest in moving into the pharmaceutical industry. And so when Aaron asked me if I'd like to participate in this particular session of how do we actually flip the script and make it so that we live into his model, where you're asking about the patients first and you're developing it from that perspective, I'm all in, because this is, hi Edward, this is this is a passion of mine that I've been talking about. Sarah Chamberlain is here in the audience from Flock, another really interesting patient-first type of approach. Now, I know that what you're all thinking of, oh great, here's another pharma person to lecture us on the patient voice and how the industry thinks the patient voice is so important. And yet we know, we asked you, And we heard from you because we know we don't always get this right, and we know we have a lot of work to do. And I'm here saying, let's have this conversation. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to put up a credo because we've heard you. We've heard that the patient advocacy departments are downsizing. We've heard that you're viewed as the cherry on top and not substantive and maybe thought of as an afterthought, that it's a nice to have, that you're included at the end. That came up so much today. The importance and the brilliance of bringing the patients in from the very beginning. What should the target product profile look like? What kind of symptoms do you not have good management over? What are your biggest complaints about the available therapies, or are there even any? And so I want you to know, we asked, and I'm going to ask your trust, even though you have no reason to trust me because you don't know me, but we do hear you. And when we get to the part where we're asking for your input today, I want you to reach down and resist the urge to go through the litany of the things that really frost you about how the way the industry is engaging with patients. And I know that's asking a lot, but what we want to hear from you is your vision for what it could look like. What could it look like if we actually said, we're going to do what Aaron said. We're going to put patients at the very beginning, and that's what we're going to focus on. So what we're going to do, it's a little bit of an interesting exercise, and we've got about 20 minutes left. I type about 120 words a minute, so it's going to be good with your input and your edits. We've got a draft patient-first credo that we've worked on. Aaron and I worked on it together with you. If you saw our keynote, Matt Zachary gave us some input, and we want you to react to it. It's not perfect. You've got it in your hands and paper, and we're going to put it up here on the screen as well. But we want to start thinking about, what do the guardrails look like? What would it look like if we rewarded this in innovators and entrepreneurs and businesses to do things in a patient-first manner? What would that behavior look like? J&J has an experience with our credo that we put into place when we were taking the company public. And it was ensuring that we had our values in order before we sort of opened ourselves up to being publicly traded. And it's been a critical grounding point. So that's what I want you to do, is take that passion, take all that amazing, all these comments that we've heard all day long, and think about what you want to see. What does good look like? So resist that urge, because, and you can catch me afterwards or some other time to tell me more about what isn't working, but I want to do the glass half full, I just swore, that Matt already broke the ice on that one. Glass half full on what we think it should look like. So with that, I'm going to ask my colleague from the back, Chris, if he could switch the screen now, and I'll make that a little bigger, and I'm gonna set my microphone down. Now, I am also going to say that when the microphone comes to you, so raise your hands, we'll be all nice and orderly when you have a comment. What we'd love to hear is, what did we miss? What's not in this that you're not seeing that you think should be a foundational guardrail? What might you change? Let's not get too much into really detailed wordsmithing, but if you see a word that really bothers you, let us know. So that's what we'd like to hear. Gaps, revisions, raise your hand, keep it up, and then we'll try to be, again, brief as we can get that input. And I'm going to set the microphone down and let Aaron continue talking while I type.
And as Karla is getting set up, I want us also to keep focused on what is the goal for patients. The goal for patients with this credo is we can use it foundationally to start changing the mindset of what is a great investment and a great investment roadmap. Because if we can unlock capital the right way, anchored in these values with your voice, then we can accelerate those great ideas that you have as entrepreneurs and as patients. So with that, the first person.
Hi, I'm Colleen Brunetti. I'm a rare disease patient and a patient advocate. My first impression of this document is that it is very timely and very appreciated. I've had the honor of advising pharmaceutical companies on things like product development, and I can say one of the most powerful things that has happened in those conversations is when they come back to us the next quarter and tell us in concrete ways how our advice changed the course of their planning and implementation. And so when we are doing all of these things, in order to avoid it being a box that we check of patient first or patient voice, if we can circle back and actually show patients how their words and insights are making a difference, I think even more patients will be inspired to participate in these conversations.
Thank you. So closing that feedback loop, and therefore having that as part of, a pitch, a document, a roadmap on that importance coming from the Credo. Yes.
Sorry, I think I had
sorry.
the next comment. Bless you. Catherine Ames, I'm a patient advocate with Fierce Hope Patient Advocacy and Consulting. The first thing I noticed that's missing from this document is a sentence along the lines of patient data is currency and patients should be paid for their currency.
Sarah Chamberlain, rare caregiver and advocate, and I was going to say exactly what Colleen said, but I also want to build on this next thing. One, it has to be an ongoing process. There's a lot about patients at the beginning, at step one, but as Colleen said, it's not just closing the feedback loop, it's a continuous feedback loop. It's building and industry coming back and saying, this is what we learned, how does it impact you? How does it affect you? What can we do better here? And then I would say patients own their data. It's not a single sell, it's not a single sale, it's not a transaction. I believe patient advocacy organizations should own that data, perhaps lease it or allow access to it, but only where it benefits the entire community, whether it's the patient community. It can certainly benefits the industry, but it needs to come back and it needs to be ongoing benefit to the community, not a sort of one and done piece.
And I just want to comment on those two because this is something I've been in industry, I've been thinking about data sharing and data transparency for a long time. And I think if you're okay with us capturing the concept that we need to address this, there needs to be value returned. There needs to be recognition that we as individuals, you all as individuals, should have agency over how your data are used. There should be benefit that comes back to you for the use of those data. And we can debate whether it's money, healthcare, whatever it is. But if you guys are okay with the placeholder of we need to figure out how to address this, what's the right model to do it, I've captured it up there, and if you kind of want to tweak how I've captured the thought exercise, but I agree completely, and thank you guys for that ad.
Hi, I'm Karla Schroeder. I'm a chief nursing officer. Hi, how are you? So I'm going to represent the nurse and the patient because I actually happen to be both. And I'm just going to give you a couple of words: autonomous, individualistic, humanistic, and relational. And those are the words that I'm going to leave you with. Autonomous, relational, individualistic, and humanistic. So, and I will add diverse. Yes, of course I will. Because that's the core of what we do as nurses, but it's also what we do as we advocate for patients and work with patients every day.
Love it. Thank you. And as an ethicist,
Thank
that
you.
really resonates.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Christian John Lillis. I'm the founder of the Peggy Lillis Foundation. I guess my problem with this credo is that it exists in the assumption of market forces that are there to make profit. And I just think that there are many issues in our healthcare system that cannot be solved for a profit. And I think we need industry to recognize that you might have to take a loss on something. You might have to create a drug that you're not going to make money on. And there was a time when industry accepted that not every drug was going to be a blockbuster, and that seems to no longer be the case. And a drug that we helped get approved in September of 2022 is now at risk of being taken off the market because it's not profitable enough. And so long as C-suites and investors always want that return on investment, and for it to get bigger and bigger every year, then I don't think credos are going to make much of a difference.
So we addressed this and struggled with the point you just raised with Matthew. And it really comes down to, if we're for patients, then every life we can save, every impact that we can have, we need to believe is a good thing. You talk about, capitalism, how capital flows impacts our reality. You're talking to somebody who started a company going that contrarian route, and still we needed those partnerships, and those partnerships were government-run capital. Right now, there's around, I saw a stat, $30 billion of cash that is on the balance sheet of publicly traded small biotech startups that didn't get a good clinical trial result for a whole bunch of reasons that could have nothing to do with the patient. So if we just ignore that, that's $30 billion of capital that if we rethink about some of the themes we discussed earlier today around repurposing molecules, creating incentives to get this into the hands of patients, those are millions of lives, millions of those needles in the haystack that we might be able to help. So we can be incrementalists or we can try to revolutionize. But I think the purpose of the Credo and what we're trying to do is create a foundation where if we can start to impact and influence the decision makers that are in this room, representing your voice as patients, then we can do better for patients. And that is with patients, not for them. You know, and I think that's sort of my as an entrepreneur and as somebody who just went through the last 12 months of a son with a horrific brain tumor, we were searching that if there wasn't that capitalistic motive, all of the innovations, technologies, therapeutics that got him to walk and be healthy today wouldn't be in the market. Patients would still be waiting.
But and I just want to take a moment to validate, though, I think your point, because I think it's important that we acknowledge that the system might work for some people and maybe it works for privileged people or people with insurance or money or resources, but we have as a fundamental gap in how the system is serving everyone, and that I think it's ripe for rethinking or figuring out how to make it work better. So I've captured your idea because I think we need to think about what it can look like, because I tend to fall in the camp of agreeing that we need capital for innovation, but I want to sympathize, and I think your point is valid, and I've captured it. So thank you for that.
Hi, my name is Ify Osonko, Chief Patient Officer for Rare Disease at Novo Nordisk. I'm also a patient, a caregiver, and I have a couple of words: transparent, right? Mutual benefit, which speaks to what he was saying. And sometimes that mutual benefit is not the ideal, but everybody has to get something out of the interaction. And what struck me in the document is the word patient, 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 patient. And I'm a physician. And when I'm not in clinic, you're not my patient, even if you have the disease. So can we figure out a way to contextualize the word patient in the right context, and person with disease, or a customer, or something that humanizes that. And then I think that also allows us to level the power differential between the sponsor and the recipient of the innovation. And then the last thing, which speaks to my value system, and I think it kind of speaks to what he was saying, is that mutual benefit needs to go beyond the pill. So something has to be given back to the community, either on an individual basis or collectively, beyond the actual drug or innovation. That is just because, right? And you're going to make a profit or not, but you always have to do this to give back.
I think that's
wonderful.
Reciprocity, an important concept that we think of, that it's not just that thing you're delivering, but how can we think more broadly about justice for the community? Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's
Thanks
wonderful.
for having us today. My name is, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
My name is Farashtek Javi. I'm founder and director of Elena's Light. It's a non-profit organization helping supporting refugee immigrant women, all legal. Whatever I heard since I came here, I feel I came from a different world. Whatever you said and whatever I see with the patient that we are, or clients that we are working every day, who are immigrants and new to this country, they are already a struggle with this complicated health system. And we try to have a lot of health classes to just get them to know the system. Adding to this kind of community that I'm working, AI, which is not that far from their mind. Already they are working with this system. If they have any question, they can ask already from the AI. But is there any way on this form, when I see you say co-creating and being with the patient, but there is no way or no room here for educating the patient.
Thank you.
Well
and giving them
about the system or helping equip them with knowledge.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so To follow up on that same thing, it was patient education, that we're assuming all patients are created equal in the sense that they're coming into the ecosystem knowing the same amount as everyone else, and we have to really build on exactly what you said. I think to make the promise that this is a living, breathing document, that it will be changed and grow, that this isn't a static thing, like Grace said, that goes up on the wall and it doesn't change for decades. The next thing is, I think there has to be a promise that we can communicate when it's not working. What is the channel and the outlet to do that when this document fails us, or somehow this doesn't work? And then how do we make the promise that everybody in the silos of this ecosystem will have an opportunity at least once a year to sit with real living, breathing patients who are part of the world that they're creating, whether it's researchers, executives, secretaries. And the next thing is that we look at the financial, childcare, work, language, any of these barriers that stop people from getting care on a daily basis, because they have to juggle all of these different things. We need to really consider that in the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want your son to call my laugh line 1-888 ha 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 ha.
I will.
And
He's an aspiring comedian, so he's going to love that. That's what got him through it.
Tells
Are we
me a
done?
joke.
So we have 3 minutes and 57 seconds.
You're all in trouble now.
So what I want to emphasize before I turn it over to Matt is the point that you just made, and I'm sorry, Saren, thank you, about a continuing dialogue. So if I put my slides back up, you'd see a slide that says this is just the beginning of the journey. We knew this was going to be unsatisfyingly short and not able to hear from everybody. So I really appreciate that last commitment to continue the dialogue and continue this conversation. We didn't get it perfect, but I'm going to turn it over to Matt to give us final reflections. And if you'd like to either reflect on what we've talked about, the feedback, I'm just going to leave it with you to figure out how to close out these last 3 minutes in whatever way you think appropriate. Because I know it's going to be good.
Kick line, come on. What? Kick line. Dun, da, 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 da.
It's the cruise.
That's fine. Yeah, she was. Cruise director. True story. All right, I'm going to just totally wax poetic for no reason. I feel like we're standing, first of all, as your chief bullshit officer, bullshit sniffing officer in chief here, there is an odd validity to the attempt today than I feel like there's been in the verisimilitude, if I could use my SAT word of the day, over the last 20 years of bullshit sniffing. And I think it's because societally we are at 3 pivot points that we've not been at ever in our country. The first is the belief on the capital side, word I don't use, that you can now make more money, or you can make as much money by doing it this way. That's a good thing. I hate the idea of make all the money you want but kill us less, but if that's how we have to swallow it a little bit for now, let's approach that as a good problem to have. The second is that we're on the verge of America finally having a rights movement based on voter bloc issues that turn entitlements into protections. We always think about, like you said, time off or paternity or whatever. These should be protections at the state level, which is all we have to really work with right now. So let's stop. I mean, the idea is planted in your brains now. When this country has millions of people as part of a voter bloc on specific single issues, it becomes less of a right, less of an entitlement, less of a nice to have, and more as a benefit of citizenship in your state as a protection for the constituents that want you to reelect them. And the third one is they're fucking up healthcare really well right now, and more people are going to be mad than ever to be part of this movement. So with that, as King Henry VIII said, I won't keep you long. So to his many wives.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
And thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, everyone, and I believe the next session will be kicking off shortly. Thank you so much for your patience with us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.